What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Olibajashi, and today I'm back with something different. So today we're going to learn how to put coilovers on your vehicle. This particular vehicle the coilovers are going onto is my 2004 Volkswagen Passat. Same thing applies for the B5 and B5.5 A4 Audis. So let's get on into it. So the first thing you're going to want to go ahead and do is take your front wheels loose. You're not going to take them all the way out. You just want to break the lugs loose. That way when you have it up in the air, you can actually pull the lug nuts out or off and pull the wheel off. So let's go ahead and do that now. And what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to find either the jack point or the pinch weld that is specific to your vehicle. Volkswagens, they have these fancy little blocks. I don't need to actually remove that because I know where the pinch weld is. So if you get under there, hopefully you can see that. There's a piece of metal that runs up to about, let's say here. That's where you're going to want to jack your vehicle up at. So after you get your car all jacked up, you're going to grab your jack stand, put it under that lift point. And you are going to set your jack down on it. You always want to be safe, guys. Always use your jack stands. I actually take extra precaution, and I'll show you what that is here in just a moment. So one of the things that I like to do after I've got my car up on the jack stand is I like to take my wheel and I like to also place it under the car. And the reason I always do that is because I have seen jack stands fail. And you always want to be protected. So if the car were to fall off the jack stand and the jack stand were to fail, it will land on the wheel and tire and not your legs, arms, whatever else you may have under there. So always keep that in mind. One more thing. Before you ever lift a car up, make sure your parking brake is on and set and that you are on a level piece of cement, because that's usually how accidents happen. So just make sure you cover those bases. After your car is all jacked up, this varies from vehicle to vehicle, but it is usually to remove the strut. It is going to be this bolt right here. You will pull the nut off of this bolt, pull it out of the lower control arm. And then if you come around to the upside, on the Volkswagen, there is one nut here, and there is one nut on the driver's side that is behind these brake lines. So it's right down in there. Maybe you can see the light shining up through the wheel well there. So you'll need to take that bottom bolt out, and we're going to just loosen these up for now. On this particular vehicle, the bottom bolt is an 18 mil nut on one side and an 18 mil bolt head on the other. Okay, so now that you have your bottom bolt out, what you are going to want to do is come up top and take the top nuts out. Just the two. Go ahead and do that now. On this inner bolt, I like to use a wobble socket just because it's so tight. Just helps you get a little more clearance in there. Okay, so it took me a second to kind of figure out how to do this. If you don't want to remove this pinch bolt, which is a pain in the ass, you are going to need a pry bar. And what I did was I went on top of the upper control arms and I grabbed onto the spring itself, and I compressed the upper and lower control arm, which keeps the spring stationary so that I could pull the bottom of the strut up over the lower control arm. And now all we got to do is go up top, finish loosening our top strut bolts, and it will come out. So if you're doing a normal car, right about here would be where you would start to just reverse this process and put your coilover assembly in and tighten everything back up in the reverse order that you took it out. With Volkswagen, the coilovers do not come with these strut tops. So what I have to do is I have to use a spring compressor, compress the spring, which I'll show you how to do, pull the top off, and switch everything over to the new coil. Okay, so with this particular spring compressor setup, what you're going to want to do is it's got these channels. You want to take these channels, you want to hook your spring into those channels like so. You want to take these pins. These pins are safety pins, meaning once they are locked in like so, it's no longer going to fall off. It is actually on the spring. So what we're going to get those doing is setting adjacent, so directly across from each other. We're going to set one there, one on the other side, and we're going to start compressing them, and I'll show you how that's done in just a second. Okay, after you get them setting pretty close to evenly apart, this particular type of spring compressor is a 19 mil. You can either do it by ratchet, by wrench, or whatever you may have. You want to take your time and you want to go up as evenly as you can on both sides to make sure that the spring does not slip off of there. So I cheated and used my impact ratchet there. So now the strut top is able to be removed really for this particular situation. The only thing that we need off of the old strut is the bump stop, the hardware that mounts it, and we are also going to need some of this stuff here. So keep this stuff, toss the rest if you want, and we'll get that switched over to the coilovers and we'll put it back in. Okay, now that we've got the front done, we're going to go ahead and move to the rear. I have already taken the rear wheel off, got it on the jack stand. Now on the rear of the Passat, it's a little different than the front. There's pretty much only one thing that holds the spring in, and that's going to be the shock absorber. So you have two, hopefully you can see that, 13 mil bolts up top, and you have one 16 mil bolt right there. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to stick open end wrench into here, grab onto that, which mine is a little rusted but should be okay, and one there, pull that out, and then you'll take the tops out, and after you do that, we'll show you how to drop the spring if it doesn't fall out on its own. Okay, now that we've got that lower strut nut off, what we're going to do is we've got the jack positioned under it, because that bolt's a little tough to get out. So all we're going to do is we are going to use the jack to jack up the lower portion of the hub, or lower control arm, whatever you want to call it on this. To release the tension off that, we can pull that nut off, and then that should drop down after we release the pressure off the jack. So let's give that a try. Alright, so we have removed the tension from it, and now it's pretty loose and free spinning. Just pull that right back out. And then all we have to do, don't judge me in my jack situation either, because I lost the the shaft that goes to it. So all we're going to do is we're going to release the tension on that. And as you can see, after we've released the tension on it, the bottom of the shock leg is now free. But also, all we have to do is give this a good jolt, and the shock should come loose. Okay, so got the spring out, had to take the strut all the way out, and I was confused looking at this because it's got this cap on it. I sat that on there and was like, what the hell, that's not going to be right. So what I actually found out on the B5.5 passat, B5&B5.5 passat, if you get the RSK kit, it actually, you take this bottom plate off. So after you remove that plate, it shows you a, well, a dimple, I guess you could say. And that dimple actually fits right down on the nipple that is on the bottom bracket for the spring. And you take this plate and you actually run it underneath the vehicle, and that actually just threads into that, which holds everything in place. So I'll get that going and we'll come back in a minute. So after you get that plate bolted up in the bottom, make sure you run your bump stop up top. If not, you will get some hella squeaks, plus it's kind of not safe. And what we're going to go ahead and do now is we are going to disassemble this strut here, because the RSK kit comes with new struts. To do that, all you're going to do, you're going to take this this little plastic cap off, and I believe that's a 16 mil nut. And after you take that 16 mil nut off the top, all of this will just kind of fall apart. All you have to do is take this strut top and the bump stop, move that over to your new strut, and bolt everything back up into place. After you get this bolted back up into place, which is what I'm going to go ahead and do now, I'm going to kind of show you a trick to line everything back up. It does include your jack, so you're going to need one of those, which is why jack stands for the rear especially are a necessity. I think you should do it anyway for safety reasons, but we're going to go ahead and get all this stuff started up and back bolted together, and then we're going to show you how to put the strut back up while compressing the spring. Okay, so after you get your top bolts in for your strut, after you've gotten everything all switched over, the reason the jack comes into play now is because, as you can see, as I jack this up, it actually helps to center the spring onto that plate. Also, what it's doing is it's putting the strut into position for me to put the bolt back in. So we're going to go ahead and do that, tighten everything up, and we'll be done. Alright guys, after you have gotten all of your coils on, you've double checked everything is tight, you're going to want to go through with a tape measure as well as your coilover tools. There's a name for these, I forgot them though. And just going to want to make sure everything's level from side to side. This is the finished product of my car. I didn't really want something too stupidly low, kind of still drivable, but I mean, that looks good to me. I'm happy with it. And also, it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and think about getting an alignment, being that you were messing with suspension stuff. Sometimes those things don't like to be messed with, and it would affect how it handles and drives. So I recommend that type of thing. If you like this style of video, go ahead and click that like button. As always, you guys be safe out there and have a good one. Peace.